Om Shanti, welcome back. I know the break was probably too short, and I know we took quite a bit of time in the first session, but I guess it was important, right? Now you probably have have now started, if you will, to believe that the mind can heal the body quite a bit. Yeah, understand the healing power of the mind, if you will. So we'll go a little bit deeper and try to see this whole thing from a little different aspect by understanding the various layers of the mind. All right. And so the first thing to understand is that it's almost like the computer, the body is like a computer which has a hardware and a software. So the brain is the hardware, if you will, and then the mind is the software. And just as in softwares, there are different layers of softwares. There's an operating system, and then different softwares get added, and each software kind of works in tandem with the other. And the same way the mind has different layers too. Yeah, so there is this conscious layer, there's a subconscious layer, an unconscious layer. And in fact, there's also supraconscious layer, which we don't necessarily have to talk about right now, which I'll let Kanishka talk about when she is doing her part. So these three layers work very closely with each other, but to understand that mind is different from the brain. Yeah, in a way, to understand that consciousness is different from matter. For a long time, it was thought that consciousness is merely an epiphenomenon of matter, of brain, that brain is primary and consciousness somehow emerges from the brain. But now we have realized that consciousness is primary across the board. I think no scientist now would disagree with this, except the hardcore scientists who kind of are not ready to understand any new paradigms. So we now for sure understand that consciousness is primary and matter is a byproduct of consciousness. But there is a very close connection between the consciousness and matter, between mind, if you will, and the brain. So if you see these three layers, each of these layers holds a lot of potential, lot of energy that is pardon me, waiting for us to harness to be able to heal ourselves. And now to understand that there is another entity called as the soul. The soul is the life force, the energy, the true operating system, if you will. And mind is in a way a byproduct of the soul. Mind is in a way an intermediary step between the soul and the brain, the life force and matter, the consciousness and matter, really. Yeah, so the soul is really the main determinant of what is happening in the mind, if you will. And then from the mind, then impulses or energy is transmitted to the brain. The brain then sends impulses in the form of electric energy to different parts of the body, and actions are performed. So the thought gets created, and then for sure, this is very important to understand, that every action that we perform is preceded by a thought. Whether we are aware of that thought or not, yeah, whether we're conscious of what lies before the action, but there always is a thought that precedes an action. So thoughts are created in the mind by the soul. The soul, the life force, the energy creates a thought in the mind. It uses mind to create the thought. And then thought is like magnetic energy that then, because of all the electrical wiring that lies in the brain, as the thoughts change their location, if you will. Yeah, there is electromagnetic induction that happens in the neurons, in the nerve cells, in the circuitry of the brain. And these electrical impulses then are transmitted to whatever area of the body that needs to be moved, and an action is performed. But also to understand that these three layers of the mind kind of are very interconnected with each other. The conscious mind is where the thoughts are created, and thoughts could be in the form of ideas, could be in the form of feelings, could be in the form of emotions too. But then there is a subconscious mind where all the information is processed not in the form of really thoughts, but in the form of images. And then these images get stored in our unconscious mind. So in a way, these images are also created, which in a way correspond to the thoughts that are created in the conscious mind. So the conscious mind would think of, say, banana. The subconscious mind will immediately create an image of a banana. And this image is then stored in the unconscious mind, which becomes like a memory bank. But the subconscious mind is also fed from the unconscious mind, because the image of banana comes for the subconscious mind alive because the unconscious mind has already kept in its storage an image of banana from a past experience. Yeah. And so the unconscious mind, because it has had, for example, a very wonderful banana that was that was really good and was very satisfying for the person, maybe, then that information, this unconscious mind many times would relate to the conscious mind, create the desire for a banana. The subconscious mind is again going to create an image of banana, again probably fed by the unconscious mind. And then all of this processing then will be given to the brain, which will lead to changes in the electrical impulses in the neural circuitry of the brain, which will then cause the transmission of that same electricity in different forms, in different strengths, to different parts of the body. And the person or you would then move towards maybe the kitchen or the pantry or wherever the banana is kept, and you will peel it and start eating it. All right, so far so good. Yeah, what we are trying to do here is to understand the true mechanics of the mind. Yeah, once we understand these mechanics, then we can use the power that lies in the different layers of the mind for our most advantage. Yeah, for our healing. So let's understand the power of the conscious mind. Yeah, and we said power of the conscious mind is thoughts, and how thoughts can be powerful. And actually, on the other hand, it can be disempowering too. Yeah, our own thoughts can be very disempowering. Many times we say we are not good enough. Many times we think that we cannot do such a task, or we are too sick, and we will not get healed, will not get cured, we're going to die soon anyways. Yeah, the disease is spreading more and more. Yeah, this is how the mind creates powerful disempowering thoughts. But the same thing we can do in a positive way and create powerful or empowering positive thoughts. So here is a funny example for me to kind of prove this point. Yeah, this is Simpson, right? Hubert Simpson. Well, yeah, I'm sure many of you have seen this cartoon. So this cartoon figure once had a lot of headache, and so he went to the doctor. The doctor said, "Let me check, do a CT scan, and let's see what's going on inside." And so when the CT scan results came, this is what they saw: a tiny, tiny brain in the head of Hubert Simpson. What does that mean? Yeah. What do you think is going on? Yeah, Hubert Simpson, if you know, is considered or projected in the cartoon show as a stupid character, as in, yeah, not very smart. So, what do you think is happening? Is he stupid because of a small brain, or has the brain shrunken or become small because of his stupidity or not using his brain in the right way? What do you think? Yeah, this is where the whole concept of disuse atrophy.
Not using his.
Correct, not using. Just like you have muscles and you don't go to the gym, you don't exercise your muscles, the muscles become weak over time. Similarly, your, uh, yeah, 1 second. Yeah. So similarly, think of it this way, that if I don't use my mind in the best possible way, my mind is also going to get weak. Yeah? There is a tremendous effect of what we think, how we think, when we think, what we think, yeah, on all that is happening around us, inside a body and outside. So this is where I guess the $1 million are, yeah, in the presentation. The plasticity of brain, neuroplasticity. The person who came up with this concept got a Nobel Prize, yeah, Eric Kendall. What it really means is that our brains are constantly changing, and we can make it change in whatever way we want till the last moments of our lives. Yeah, earlier it was thought that after a certain age, the brain stops developing anymore. So whatever you've learned in the childhood or till a certain age is what makes you who you are. But now we have realized the implications of this are ginormous. This mind-boggling that you can, like they say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's totally wrong. You can teach anything to anyone. It's all about conditioning. That the brain, and really speaking, why the brain is so malleable, so plastic, is because the mind itself is very plastic. You can change the mind in any way you want. Whatever has happened so far was past, but today you can change the way you heal, the way you live your lives, and the way you eventually transition from this life. Yeah, and here this research shows how meditation can change your brain, and there is this whole new field called as contemplative neuroscience or neuropsychoimmunology, psycho neuro immunosciences, or whatever. There are multiple names to this, but this was the research done on some yogis, and this is before and after images where these priests or these monks were asked to meditate for certain number of hours or whatever time duration they were told to do, and there was these scans are actually positron emission tomography scans, where depending on the amount of activity in the brain, it's, however, if it is really more active, then it will light up as more red, and if it is less active, it will be less red. So if you look here, this is the front of the brain, yeah, and that's the back of the brain. So this is where the frontal lobes are, and this is where the occipital lobes are. On the side, this is called as the parietal lobe. So the frontal lobe, where really the prefrontal cortex is, which Kanisha will be talking a little more about it, is the most evolved part of the brain where higher functioning happens. So they found that when these meditators, after meditation, their frontal lobes lighted up more. There was more activity in the frontal lobes where higher functioning is. And parietal lobe has a very unique function in itself. It kind of um, gives us a sense of time and space constraints. Yeah, the construct of time and space is really in the parietal lobe. In other words, if um, we know that we have to finish this project in 2 hours, or our boss needs us to return this assignment in 2 days, and so on and so forth, or the location, the physical location, all this is the function of the parietal lobe. And they found that in yogis, this area became less lighted. So in other words, what they were able to see that when yogis or monks or priests or whoever, when there is meditation happening, then the meditators are able to transcend the constraints of time and space. They're able to enter into the dimension of no time, no space, if you will. Yeah, and at the same time, they're able to improve their higher functioning. What does that mean? That think of it, if somebody is giving you, if somebody is giving you, um, one second. If somebody is giving you an assignment to take care of in 2 hours, don't you have a lot of stress then? Yeah, I have to finish it in 2 hours, finish it in 2 hours. And as you keep repeating that for yourself, are you able to perform? No, your performance goes down. So if you are able to transcend this constraint of time and space, and in a way you can stretch time, like the Einstein's theory of relativity, you can stretch time for yourself while at the same time improve your cognitive functions, your ability to process things, yeah, with much higher consciousness, much higher awareness, then won't you be able to do a much better job in much less time, yeah, and make your boss happy? That's exactly what meditation does. Let's go further. Yeah, these are the experiments of Masaru Emoto, the famous Japanese scientist, and his experiments on water, where he found that when intentions are given to water, then the structure of the water molecule changes. And water molecule, again, is something which is inert, if you will. People think it's inert, but see, it has its own energy, it has its own intelligence. Yeah, though it is not really consciousness like us. Yeah, it is matter. You see how consciousness or intention or belief, therefore, can change everything in matter. You see how here, thank you, love and appreciation versus you make me sick, I'll kill you. These kind of different intentions created different structures in the molecules. The molecular structure of water changed. Think of it. Then what cannot change? And this water was not even in connection with the person who was creating those intentions. It was in an isolated room, and the person would just go there, or maybe sometimes even write it on a piece of paper or sticky note and put it on that jar of water. And that it in itself created so much of transformation in the molecular structure even of the water that was lying there. Now think of it, we are in such close proximity to our own bodies. If we have negative intentions, think of what's going to happen to the molecular structure of our bodies. If we have this thought that we cannot heal, if we have this thought that we're going to die, we're doomed anyways, that we have to take these medicines, we have to take these, get these procedures done, we have to succumb to modern medicine completely to heal ourselves, then think of what is going to happen to the molecular structure of our body. On the other hand, if we create positive healing intentions for ourselves, if truly our belief begins to change, then think of it, what it will do again to the molecular structure of the body. Yeah. Yeah, so now let's go into the power of the unconscious mind. And that was all about the conscious mind, the thoughts. The unconscious mind is where the images, you remember? That's where the memory gets created. The images are stored, and these images are processed, and memories are created. Memories then lead to habits. So the power of unconscious mind is the power of habit. So on one hand, you have good habits, on the other hand, you have bad habits. Whatever is fed into the unconscious mind in the form of images, suggestions, becomes the habit for the person. Yeah, so you are a conglomeration of bad habits or good habits depending on what you fed yourself. Yeah. Now let's understand this a little bit more, how the subconscious mind works. So say if you have a thought, let's take an example of a thought of coffee. So you want to drink coffee, yeah? There is going to be mm, a part of your mind, and which is the subconscious mind really, that begins to be active. And this thought that was created in the conscious mind then has to pass through the subconscious mind as a filter, and the subconscious mind determines whether this thought is worthy of being expressed, that a coffee needs to be drunk at this time of the day or night, right? So on one hand, the subconscious mind also creates images. So when we think of coffee, then the image of a coffee machine, or or some way to warm up water, and where we are going to get the coffee from, and how much coffee we are going to take out of that container of coffee into our cup, whether we're going to add creamer or not. All these things are going to come into play. Yeah, so you see the subconscious mind is doing multiple things. Yeah, and we'll go into that in a little bit. So we see that the subconscious mind creates images on one hand and also acts as a filter. Now, when we create these kind of images, eventually we start moving in that direction. Yeah, and we go into the kitchen, we make coffee for ourselves. Every time we do that, that is a learning process. We begin to learn. Pardon me. Every time we learn. And so what happens is, over time, this becomes like an automatic function for the self. Yeah, so as soon as you drink, as soon as you have the thought that I want to drink coffee, you don't necessarily have to create those images consciously. It happens automatically. Yeah, this is called as automation. That's how habits are created. Yeah, and you automatically are able to go to your favorite coffee. You automatically are able to then enjoy that coffee. So in other words, what happens is, when we keep doing an action again and again and again, there's certain neurons that fire in the brain. And by repeated firing of those neurons become friends with each other. Yeah, it's like partners in crime. And there is this very famous saying that neurons that fire together wire together. Yeah, so this is how new habits are created. New connections lead to new habits. But this is good. In a way, this is good, because you think of it every day. If you have to relearn everything, it won't be a very efficient system. Yeah, like if you go driving your car, you in the beginning it was pretty stressful, right? That you had to know where exactly to find the gas pedal and the brake, and how much to press on the gas pedal, how much to press on the brake, how much to turn the steering wheel, and so on and so forth. So initially it was quite stressful. But over time, what happened? As you began to learn this, as the learning process happened, it became very easy. You didn't have to worry about driving, right? And you don't worry about driving now. You automatically sit in the car, switch it on, and start driving to wherever you need to. This is automation. Yeah. So automation is not bad. In fact, that's exactly what we are trying to get to. We want to become automatons in a way, But we have right now become negative automatons. So when we see something that quote unquote seems negative, immediately our brain fires in that, or our mind fires in that direction, and we have a negative response to that thing. A negative emotion, negative energy, that negative feelings get created, and we start behaving in a negative way. Stress gets created, all these stress hormones, stress enzymes get created, and the body then succumbs eventually to all the acid all these chemicals that are secreted by our brains. Right? You agree? Yeah. So now what we have to do is to change from these negative automaton thing that we have created to a positive automaton. That when we see a negative impulse, we are able to transform it from negative to a positive response. Yeah, negative impulse to a positive response. As we keep doing it again and again and again, then this will become our natural state of being. Then we don't even have to think that in this negative situation, I got to be positive. Positivity will become a part of your system. Make sense? Yeah. If you look at this whole concept that Bruce Lipton has made it quite popular now in his book, The Biology of Belief. And he says the secret of life is belief rather than genes. It is our beliefs that control our lives. And only 1% of illness and disease is genetic. In fact, I would like to say that pretty much everything that we see around us is not genetic, it is belief. Yeah, we constantly like to blame something or the other out there. Yeah, maybe sometimes even our genes, that we are fat because of our parents, we are dumb because of our parents, and so on and so forth. But we can change everything because this is where this whole concept of epigenetics comes into play. Yeah, that environment shaping us. But it's not just the external environment that shapes us. It is our internal environment that also shapes us. And it's not just the environment that's shaping us, it's our perception of the environment. What we believe is true is what then eventually shapes us. Yeah. And so this takes us to imagery, yeah, the power of the subconscious mind. And what is imagery? Is this our ability to see things which are not in front of us, but things which we have seen or known in the past. Yeah. And you see an example of this would be McDonald's French fries. Yeah, for many people, that's a big thing. The smell, the taste, the crunchiness, and the effect of that red kind of packaging that they deliver the French fries in. And many places, it's like a free French fry portion with whatever you eat. And so, many times you will hear people say that when they're driving on the highway, as they drive, and they see McDonald's M, loving it, and automatically their steering wheel will turn to that direction, and they will stop right in front of the McDonald's restaurant, yeah, fast food joint. What happened? Somewhere that those French fries have created a habit inside them. Yeah, and just visualization in that spur of the moment, as soon as they see M loving it, the visualization, the imagery that gets created because of the vision, the smell, the taste, the touch, the crunchiness, the feeling, yeah, what it does inside your mouth, all those things then become alive, and that becomes a reality, and nothing else becomes a reality. Reaching home, reaching work, all that becomes secondary. McDonald's French fries becomes a reality, and the person moves towards that. And why, you see, that's why McDonald's French fries have become so popular. It's because they have perfected this art of creating a habit. And creating a habit requires a lot of different impulses, different input from the eyes, that is the occipital cortex, from the hearing, from the smell, from the taste and touch, which I was sharing earlier. They have perfected all this. So the habit becomes very quick, very easy. You right away get into it. Mm, I am not a big fan of all of these. I don't eat out anyways, but I know from people that it is almost impossible to not go for McDonald's French fries for many people, yeah, who have become habituated to these. So it's almost like a path in the woods. Habits get created based on what new pathways created in the brain. Yeah, so think of it, if there is a path that is walked on in the woods quite a few times, then you know you can know it. There won't be grass growing on it. There won't be shrubs in the way, because people are walking again and again. The grass and everything is going to die. But if, say, you want to create a new path in the woods, then you start walking on it, you start clearing the way, and then you, in a way, have to tell people to not use the old one and start using the new one. The more the people who move towards the new path, the quicker the new path will develop, and the old path will completely be obliterated. If, say, for example, 50% people still go on the old path, and there are 50% people who are now moving towards the new path, then the new path will take that much longer for it for itself to be materialized. So what that means is that if I want to create a new pathway in my brain, I need to use as many times as possible the new pathway. I cannot go back to the old habit. Yeah, this is how the new habit is going to be created much quicker. However, it is a little difficult. Yeah, there's this big chasm, if you will, between thought and habit. Now, how do we go from this thought that I need to change, I should eat healthy, I should eat Dean Ornish's diet, and this is totally vegan or vegetarian or whatever, yeah, and it's healthy diet, I got to eat that, and I'm not going to eat chocolates, I'm not going to eat McDonald's French fries. How do I change this habit? Sometimes it can be very difficult, and the reason why it can be very difficult is because we have strengthened our habit to the extent that it has become totally ingrained within us. That's what kind of has become our identity, if you will. Yeah. So if we have to say for example, if we have consumed McDonald's French fries 500 times in our lifetime from childhood to now, it will take 500 more times for us to eat healthy diet and not eat McDonald's French fries, for that habit to go away, yeah, to completely get obliterated, and you start eating the healthy new diet. However, it is very difficult. Every now and then you'll falter, you'll go back to McDonald's French fries. I'm just giving this example of diet for now. And so what will happen is, every now and then, because of your digressing back to the old path, the old habit still doesn't get obliterated. Yeah. And it is very difficult, therefore, to change permanently to a new habit. That's where the subconscious mind comes into play. That's where visualization comes into play. Yeah, it seems like a daunting task, doesn't it? That I have to eat a healthy diet 500 times, not even visiting one time that unhealthy diet, for me to become a total healthy diet consumer. The total new habit is going to take a long time. So what can I do instead? Visualize. What does that mean? That instead of trying to even move a muscle, you can actually visualize that action in your mind. And if you remember, in the beginning we had talked about that for the brain, for the mind, imaginary is real. When you're visualizing it, the mind or the brain gets fooled. It feels as if the action is actually happening. And when you do it again and again and again, hmm, hundreds of times, say 500 times you've done it in your mind, it may not be exactly 500 times of action, but could be at least 100 times. But 100 times of physical actions is difficult to do. But 500 times of visualization is much easier. Make sense? So far makes sense. But also, yeah, so this is really the ability to see with the mind. It is really the natural language of the subconscious. And this is where the simulation hypothesis comes into play again, which means that when we are creating a movement, where there's a movement versus where there is an observation of an action, both of which, yeah, lead to the same amount of neural firing, which I had shared in the past, in the earlier session. So, for example, um, how do I explain this? Yeah. So, all right. So, if you have, they did experiments with monkeys. So, where they first gave the monkeys some peanuts to eat, and they mapped out the brain, and they saw certain areas of the brain got activated. And then later, in the second part of the experiment, they did not allow the monkeys to access to the penis, but rather the people who were in the lab, the human beings, they took peanuts out of the bowl and started eating, and they were in full view, yeah, for the monkeys to see them. And so at that time, when they mapped the brains of the monkeys, they found the exact location, the same location firing up, which means that the brain gets fooled whether the monkey eating peanut versus the monkey watching somebody else eat peanuts. It is almost the same thing for the brain. And that's where this whole motor imagery came into play as soon as we began to understand this. That if I can visualize again and again and again doing an action, it will be as if the brain will feel that an action is performed or has been performed. Yeah, and this is how the habit can be created very quickly. Yeah, so now coming to this flight and fright or freeze response, yeah, when you see a lion and you have this sympathetic response where you get all scared, your eyes get, the pupils get shrunken. There is this intense neurochemical pathway that gets activated inside you. On the other hand, you think of it, this, of course, if there is a real lion that has showed up at your door, you need to have a sympathetic response. However, most of the times in today's life, there are no lions. There is nothing really bad happening, but we imagine that bad thing. And because of imagining the bad thing, we have a sympathetic response similar to as if a bad thing is really happening. Yeah, makes sense? So similarly, what we can do now is to have a relaxation response, a parasympathetic response, that all is well response. What does that mean? That even in a stressful situation, we can create a mindset that all's well, that everything will be taken care of. And we can calm ourselves down. We can relax. We can heal ourselves rather than creating this enormous surge of all these chemicals inside our body, which are totally going to destroy us. The catecholamines, the norepinephrine, epinephrine, the cortisols, and all that. And rather than that, we can slow down that response or completely ameliorate that response truly and heal ourselves. Yeah. And that's the parasympathetic response. And this has been seen, yeah, this motor imagery over and over and over again. Yeah. In strokes, patients with strokes and patients with coronary artery disease. In fact, there is a big program that the Brahma Kumaris has. If you go into the website 3dhealthcare.org, I guess, where a big project was started several years back in India in the headquarters. We have a hospital there called as Global Hospital, where a lot of research happened in the field of coronary artery disease, where people were given, yeah, just like Dean Ornish's diet, healthy diet, exercise, and of course some beta blockers and all the necessary good medicines. But these people had 99-100% blocks in their coronaries, and geographically proven blocks, yeah, which you were saying too, Amit ji, yeah, Ashok ji, yeah, that angiographically proven blocks. And few months later, after teaching them all the different steps of visualization and so on and so forth, they found that these arteries opened up completely. Isn't that awesome? That's the truth of the matter. This research was actually funded by the Defense Ministry of India. Defense, I can't remember exactly what that unit is called as, but by the government of India, really, it was funded. And it is all documented, it is all published, and it is known across the world. Yeah. And so, healing imagery in cancer. And this is where I'm going to give it to Kanishta, but I see that there are several chats. And let me look at these. Now, what does this mean? Just to be clear, basically every disease starts in our mind, and with our internal power, we can change this reality. Is that it? Yes, that's correct. Yeah, and is what we it's what we feed into our mind, our brain. Yeah, transcendental meditation is based on unifying theory of universe. People, please show earlier slide again, images of the brain. Yes, I can show that. Please repeat. Fire together, lost the second part. All right, so nerve cells or neurons that fire together then wire together, they become friends, they'll start interlocking with themselves, each other, and that's how habits get created. Yeah, and I can show you that image of the brain again. Yeah, here is the image. Yeah, is this good enough? You see, this is the frontal part of the brain, frontal lobes, that became more active, and the parietal lobes became less active. This is the prefrontal cortex, where the higher functioning is, higher intelligence is. Yeah? Good enough? Everybody convinced now that we can heal ourselves through the power of visualization? And now I give it to Kanishta. I know there will be a lot more questions, how this really works, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So Kanishta, are you there?
Thank you. Very good.
Yeah, most welcome.
Thank you, Shwetamba. It's really nice.
Good. Yeah, so Kanishta, take it forward. You have the controls. You are the co-host, and you can share the screen.
So you can see my screen now. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And screen is visible as well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So you have been hearing a lot about about the power of mind, power of visualization. So in this short session, I will take you through historical perspective of visualization, how it all started, who was the one who came up with this idea of using imagery, especially in cancer survivors. So it all started actually with this doctor, Carl Simonton. He was a radiation oncologist. In 1970s, he was doing his residency. And while he was doing his residency, he came across patients. Those patients, when he was examining them, he observed a very interesting phenomenon. What he found was patients who had severe prognosis, bad prognosis, and they had little expectations that this patient is going to survive for maybe few months or few years, whatever. Those patients were coming back for their annual visits for a long period of time. So that made him curious. That what was happening to these patients. We are telling them that your prognosis is not good, but still these patients were able to survive. So one time he thought, maybe let me ask these patients, and he kind of interviewed such patients. And what he found was patients were saying that, you know what, I'm not thinking of dying because I want to see my grandson graduate, or I want to help my daughter before I die, or I want to see myself working till this time. So these types of replies when he got from the patients, the common thread that was running through all these replies was that these patients had a strong will to live. They wanted to live. That's why they were able to survive that long. Although their prognosis was bad, but still they were surviving. So that made him think that maybe because these people believe that they're not going to die, that could be one of the causes of their prolonged survival. So he thought of, why not come up with something that will help these patients direct their beliefs in positive direction. And his wife, Stephanie Simonton, she was a psychologist and also a motivational counselor. And she was especially interested in exploring more in those kinds of patients who were high achievers. And she also got interested in maybe coming up with something that would really help these types of patients, cancer patients. So both of them decided that let's use this imagery, let's experiment with imagery and see the effect of imagery on cancer patients. And during those times, there was a lot of research going on related to biofeedback as well. Biofeedback had come, and at that time, a lot of experiments were happening. So they teamed up with two biofeedback researchers and they started doing this experiment. And in biofeedback, maybe, I don't know whether you know about it or not, in biofeedback, they actually teach the patients how to have control over those things which normally we don't have control over, like control over our own breathing, control over our own heart rate, all these things. So then they decided to experiment with imagery. So the first patient that they used the imagery, in that patient was actually suffering from throat cancer. He was a 61-year-old guy, and his cancer was in a very terminal stage. He had a grave prognosis. He had become very weak. He had lost quite a bit of weight From 130 pounds, he had gone down to 98 pounds. He was not able to even swallow his own saliva. He had difficulty in breathing. So this patient was told, medically he was incurable, and he had less than 5% chance for 5-year survival. So Carl Symington and Stephanie Symington, what they did, they offered him relaxation exercises. They asked him that, you do this exercise of relaxing the muscles of your body completely, and they guided him to do certain, specific mental imagery exercises. They asked him to do these exercises for 5 to 15 minutes, 3 times every day. So he started doing those exercises, and these exercises were very specific, related to cancer. They were very powerful exercises. Because this patient was receiving radiation therapy, they asked him to picturize himself while he was receiving radiation therapy, as if the therapy that he was receiving, the therapy is coming to his body, hitting his body in the form of tiny bullets of energy. Both normal and cancer cells, they were getting attacked by this radiation therapy. But because the cancer cells, they were weak, he asked this person to visualize his cancer cells to be very weak. And because these cancer cells were weak, they were getting destroyed. So he visualized that. And because the normal cells were healthy, they were able to survive. So along with this, they also asked him to picturize his own defense mechanism, a defense mechanism that is in the form of white blood cells. These are specialized cells in the body which really, they help us to, they prevent any attack that is coming from outside. They prevent the body from the attack. So they kind of engulf whatever, for example, bacteria is attacking the body, virus is attacking the body. So they engulf it and they eat it. So these white blood cells, they are very powerful. So he was asked to picturize his own white blood cells as if they're coming in, they're swarming over the cancer cells, they're picking up, they're carrying off all the dead and dying cells. And then all these cells, they're flushing out from his body through liver and kidney. So he was asked to do this exercise. So he visualized his cancer every day as if it is decreasing in size. And then also he was asked to picturize him becoming very healthy. His health is coming back to normal. So he did this for about 2 months, and he did not miss. I think just one time he missed, when he had he had to go and meet with his friend. Just one time he missed. Otherwise, he was very, very regular. So he did this sincerely, and the results that they got was astonishing. After 2 months, even before that, this patient, halfway through it, when he was doing this exercise, halfway through it, he found himself eating more. His appetite came back, and he started gaining weight. And it was really amazing how he was able to heal himself completely. After 2 months, there were no signs of cancer. And then he thought that why not use this imagery exercise to treat my own arthritis. He also had knee problems. So he used similar type of imagery for his arthritis, and he cured that as well. He was able to go fishing, and then he started enjoying, somebody, I think, mentioned here about marathon. So he was wanting to go for fishing. So he started enjoying that. So that was the result that was amazing, the first patient. And then several such experiments were done with other patients. And most of the patients actually did very well. So when they found positive results with this approach, they came up with this idea that it's very important to take a whole person approach to cancer. Instead of just looking at the diagnosis, looking at the cancer alone, it's very important to see the whole person, because they said that they realized that illness is not truly physical, but the cause of illness is also related to what's going on in the mind, as well as what type of emotions are getting generated. They realize the importance of this. And they said that cause of illness is often problems elsewhere in the individual's life, and that gets aggravated by a series of stresses that happens. These stresses, they come to someone 6 to 18 months prior to the onset of cancer. So it's very important to know the cause of cancer. That's the stress that is causing the cancer. So stresses are going to be there, but how the person is responding to that stress, to that situation, that's very important. So if these patients can bring about the change in the way they respond to the situation, and that involves both a shift in perspective and their own response towards the disease. So they further said that the emotional response to stresses, especially when somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, the first response usually is denial, and then anger, and then, fear, right? All those things, hopelessness. So when a person goes through this emotional stress, this triggers a set of physiological responses. As we know that mind and body are connected. So physiology of our body also gets affected, and that actually suppresses the defense system of the body. And this results in the production of more and more abnormal cells. So they came up with this idea that it's important to manage stress in 3 different ways. The first is, it's important to change the external situation. So what they meant by that, the external situation means it's important to see if your surrounding is not appropriate, or if wherever you are taking your treatment from, you're not happy with the treatment. So these types of things you have control over. So it's important to check what needs to be changed externally.
So can we say, like, when you have a lot of friends or family members who constantly think that you are sick, they keep saying that, they keep feeling that, that's also not healthy, and it may be important that you extricate yourself from that kind of
That's
circumstances,
true.
right?
Yeah, because that is the negative input that you're getting from the outside world, right? So you are taking in that negative energy, and that will further evoke emotional stress, right? So that's why it's important to watch the company. The company matters a lot. And secondly, they said that it's important to change the way you perceive or interpret the situation. How do you look at the diagnosis? When you are told that you have cancer, how you are taking it, how you are perceiving it. And I will give you an example in a moment about this perception, how it affected 2 individuals with the same disease. And then the third thing that they pointed out was that it's important to change the way you respond to the situation. So the way you perceive, if you bring about the change in your perception, then it's easy to bring about the change in your response as well. So their early research on cancer with imagery resulted in these findings. They said that medically incurable malignancies could be treated, and patients, they lived 2 times longer, and that their quality of life was greatly improved. So this was their result. So they concluded that it's important for the patient to take active participation, because patients' active and positive participation can influence the onset of disease, the outcome of treatment, and patients' quality of life. So this was their conclusion. So now I would like to go over this model. They came up with this model where they had actually told us about the importance of connection between the stress and the growth of cancer cells. How stress leads to cancer growth. So you see here, whenever there is any kind of stress, psychological stress, this stress could be in any form, but mainly psychological stress. There is depression, there is despair, there is hopelessness, there is this generation of all negative emotions. So that actually impacts our limbic system. And here you see, I have this picture to share with you all so that you know what limbic system is about. Here, there are different parts to the limbic system. Limbic system is basically that system of the brain that controls the emotions. Whatever emotions they are generated, it is mainly controlled by this part of the brain. And mainly this amygdala, as you see here, amygdala is the main, this like a epicenter where the emotions are generated, and then those emotions, then they are stored in the hippocampus. And then they are relayed through the thalamus, and hypothalamus is a place where, it's a very important part of the brain that controls our immune system and also other hormones of the body. As you see here in this flow diagram, how this hypothalamus gets affected when the limbic system is affected. Our emotions are impacting our homeostasis. Homeostasis means bringing everything to balance. And that is the work of hypothalamus. It brings back everything to normal, to optimum level. So because emotions are affecting the hypothalamus, hypothalamus controls the immune system. So immune system also gets affected in a way that there is suppression of the activity of this important system, immune mechanism, defense mechanism. So that gets affected, and along with that, the pituitary activity. Pituitary is the main hormone that controls many different glands of the body. So the entire system, there's many chemicals that are secreted in an imbalanced way. Like Shwetank was sharing, the stress response. When there is a lot of stress, there is fight, flight, and freeze response. And because of that, cortisol is released, adrenaline, all these chemicals are released. So when there is excess secretion of these chemicals, then there is increase in abnormal cells. And that actually leads to the growth of cancer. Okay. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about how our brain and our mind, they are connected, they are linked. Shwetank initially, the initial part of this session, he talked about conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind, right? So we can say that amygdala is that part of our mind that is subconscious part actually, because like Shwetank mentioned, how the subconscious part of our mind receives information in images, right? It cannot understand anything in words, but it receives information in images. So whatever we see or we visualize, that is picked up by amygdala. So if you visualize a stress, immediately amygdala will create the emotion of fear or depression or whatever,
Anxiety.
anxiety, yeah, panic or whatever. So that is what is the function of this organ, amygdala. And then there are others also. Here you see the hippocampus. You can say that this hippocampus is equivalent to the unconscious part of our mind, that part that stores memory. So for example, if amygdala is responding in a certain way out of fear, those emotions will be received by hippocampus as a recorder, and they will get recorded here in the hippocampus, so that when the same situation arises again, same situation that caused you stress before, you encounter the same situation, then the same memory comes out from the hippocampus, and the amygdala will then respond in the same way as it responded before. So if you had responded in a fearful way in that situation, you will respond again in the same way, because that memory, that image, that experience also, everything gets stored in hippocampus.
Yeah. Kalyani is asking that if you could please repeat the hippocampus part. I guess people lost you there. You said it very rightly, but I guess if you could repeat it. The hippocampus is, in a way, hippocampus is where the memory happens. When people somehow have tumors or some sort of brain damage in the area of hippocampus, they are not able to make new memories. This is where, the neurons that fire together, wire together, that thing happens in the hippocampus. And, in a way, if I could explain that, that the way human brain or human mind is constructed is that there is least amount of energy that is consumed. Yeah, every time an impulse comes to us. So, in a way, like I was sharing, we are automatons, and that's how we like to be. That's how we are programmed to be. That every time an impulse comes, we don't have to think about what we need to do in this moment. It is a learned behavior that allows us to respond or react, yeah, in the way we have always done or we have learned over time, so that we don't waste that much of time to think whether we should do this or whether we should not do this. Yeah, makes sense?
It's like an inbuilt mechanism. It's already there, and we program it right from our childhood.
Yeah.
Right from our childhood, we are told that don't go close to a lion, right? Because lion will eat you up. So the fear is actually there. If you take a baby in front of lion, baby is not going to be be able to create those emotions, because baby does not know about lion. It's very interesting, actually.
Yeah.
We have been programmed in such a way right from our childhood, that lion is going to eat you up. And
Or
that's
even
why
fire. Or example would be fire. That would maybe make more sense to people right away. The child doesn't know that fire is going to burn. The child can play with the fire, but as soon as it plays, it gets burnt, and that memory gets stored. And then other people also constantly telling the child that no, fire is dangerous, it can burn you, it can damage your body, and so stay away from it. So constant, that much of information that is given to the brain, yeah, then this is where the cortical part also comes into play, right, Kanishta?
yeah. So
The
the
cortex
cortical,
is the
yeah.
conscious
So
part.
the second, you see the second picture that you see here. Oh, sorry. The second picture that you see here is, I have put this picture so that you know that this is the brain, and this is the cortical portion that you see. The outer side of the brain is the cortex. And we can relate this area, the superficial part of the brain, you can relate it with our conscious mind, because conscious mind is the superficial layer of the mind. where we create thoughts. So this is the part of the mind that really we work when we are meditating. Consciously we are creating thoughts. I am a peaceful soul. I am a happy soul. So we create these thoughts, and
I'm a
there
healthy
is,
person. I'm a healthy person. I'm a healed person.
yeah. So these types of thoughts when we create, so conscious mind is the mind that is actually creating the thoughts, and then these thoughts are then received by the subconscious part of our mind, that is amygdala. Amygdala is like a very interesting an analogy. We can see amygdala as a guard, as if it's like a guard, and mind is creating thoughts, right?
Yeah,
That
guard or a watchman, right? A
guard,
watchman.
watchman, whatever you can
Yeah.
say. So it is taking the orders, guard or a servant, maybe you can say. Whatever thoughts the conscious mind is creating, guard is taking those orders, and accordingly guard is responding, because they see the subconscious part of the mind is not going to think or make any decisions. It is there only to receive the orders that come from the conscious part of our mind. Okay, so this is a very interesting thing. You keep your mind very open and understand this. It's a very beautiful understanding. Because subconscious part of our mind is like an obedient child. Whatever conscious part of our mind is ordering, that's what it is receiving. Okay, I'm emphasizing this point. So
Yeah,
now think
whatever,
about,
however you train it,
yeah.
however you train it. Yeah.
So for example, conscious mind is connected to the outside world, right? We also need to understand how this conscious mind is creating thoughts. What is the source of our thoughts? How we are
Kanisha,
able
before
to
we go there, let's go back to the watchman analogy for a moment. You know, like the watchman, say for example, the watchman is corrupt, or you know, today's world, that's what has happened, right? The watchman doesn't know what he's doing. He is allowing all the robbers, yeah, or the bad people to enter, whereas not allowing the good people to come in, right? That's what has happened to the watchman. That's the amygdala. Amygdala has now gotten programmed in a wrong way. Agreed?
Yeah, so that is where it's
Yes.
important to understand that the amygdala needs a lot of training.
Correct. So now you think of it this way, that if I can, in a way, the conscious mind then is the master, right? Conscious mind tells the guard every day, trains the guard from morning to evening, especially in the morning, especially in the night, as soon as the guard starts the job, that, hey, this is how a good person will look like, this is how a bad person will look like. In a way, it will create, I mean, the conscious mind as the master will create a database, yeah, a computer screen, if you will, where the amygdala can refer to every now and then as a good person or any person visits. It says, oh, all right, he'll try to match. Now, this looks like a good person, I'll allow this person. This looks like a bad person, I'll not allow this person to
So
enter.
this person, we can maybe relate this person with the thoughts,
Correct, or beliefs.
right? Thoughts, beliefs, ideas, whatever.
Correct. So now you think of it this way, that over time, if you train the amygdala, that is the watchman, the guard, in the right way, then what will happen is the master, the conscious mind, will not have to worry much. The amygdala, that is the watchman, will take over from there, will follow orders ad verbatim, yeah, will refer to that database and keep doing what needs to be done. Right now, what happens initially, the conscious mind will have to work hard to try to figure this out for the amygdala. It's like the conscious mind is watching the guard from the window or through a closed circuit camera. What is the guard doing? Yeah, this has to happen initially, because it's a new guard, or the guard was corrupt, guard didn't know what he was doing, was not smart enough, was allowing all the wrong things to happen. So now the conscious mind, that's a master, tells the guard, hey guard, you've got to do this, you've got to do this every single day. The guard begins to change, but initially the master has to keep an eye on the guard, on the watchman. But eventually the watchman or the guard will be trained completely and will do the right thing on its own. That's exactly where we have to bring this to.
Yeah.
What do you think, Anisha?
Yeah,
Right?
so the training, actually we have to retrain, and this is where meditation plays, visualization meditation plays a very important role, that we have to retrain whatever training we have been giving to to amygdala was not serving us in any way. Because that was a wrong training that poor amygdala was receiving. Poor subconscious mind was just obeying the orders that was coming from the master. And master, if master is also not sure what is right, what is wrong, then there is no use blaming poor amygdala, poor subconscious mind.
Thank
So
you.
that-
Thank you for
right?
saying that. Right. Yeah. That's where the role of the prefrontal cortex then comes, right? The transcending the physical dimension of our understanding, right?
Yeah. And this is the reason when we meditate, we focus here, because prefrontal cortex is this place here. It's meant for executive function. It's like a CEO of the brain, CEO of the mind here. So we concentrate here, and then in meditation, so that we transcend from this physical world, and we change our communication not with the outside world, but we have to communicate with our inner world. Because if we make this shift of communicating with our inner world instead of outside world, then we can change the way we think.
Right. But then we can change the information,
The
that we are
information,
delivering
yeah.
to the amygdala.
Right.
Because
Because
if we are,
first, even before giving information to amygdala, we have to have right thinking. The information, we have to have right thoughts. Unless we have right thoughts, what are we going to send it to amygdala? So we have
Right.
to make sure that our connection is right. Connection not with the outside world, because see, the message that we are receiving, the information that is out there, our sense organs are receiving that information, what we see, what we hear, what we feel. That is what we use to create our thoughts. So we need to bring about a shift.
and that is all negative anyways in the outside world.
Exactly.
That's why it creates fear. And that's
Yeah.
the wrong message we give to amygdala.
Yeah. So the wrong information, wrong thoughts, wrong feelings, and that's why wrong emotions get created at the level of amygdala. And that becomes like automatic response. Even sometimes we don't want to respond in negative way, but still we respond. So the reason being, we have not trained our amygdala enough.
Yeah, that's the wrong database that we have given to the watchman, to the guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now we have to shift our consciousness from the outside world to our inner world, right? To the quantum world, where there's no change, there is unlimited potential, there's infinite capacity to heal, there is pure consciousness, if you will, there, right?
Yeah.
Where there is no time, no space, really, where there is no change, where everything is perfect, where you are whole, complete, full,
Yeah.
where you're connected to everything and everyone, where there is no separation. Yeah.
And that is what we say, that we need to train ourselves to create spiritual thoughts. If we create spiritual thoughts, these thoughts, they have a lot of good energy. And that energy, that information, when we send to amygdala, then amygdala will obey our orders and it will respond accordingly. We will, whatever situation we are in, we will respond in a positive way, in a peaceful way, because that is what will get stored in amygdala and hippocampus. Is it clear? I know it's a little tricky
No, actually, it
to
is very
understand.
clear. I think it is very clear. Thank you for explaining. I think, yeah. And I see a lot
Yeah,
of
it is clear.
I see a lot of wonderful comments. Kanisha, would you like to wait till you finish, or you want to respond to them now?
Mm,
You want to
You,
go ahead? How much more is left?
it's a lot actually. So let me finish it maybe. Uh, We are actually over time. It's already
That's okay. I think
12:15.
everybody's enjoying it, Kanisha.
Okay. So now I will share with you. I was talking about in the beginning that I will share with you about the patients, two patients, how these two patients, they respond with, they respond to their diagnosis differently. These two patients, they had lung cancer that had spread to their brain. And the first patient, when he was told that you had cancer, his response was that he quit his job immediately, and he started watching television. He would just sit in front of television blankly, and just he would spend his time aimlessly. So the way he responded to this diagnosis was he went into depression. He was very sad. He didn't want to do anything. That was his response. And within 24 hours, he started having severe pain in his body. He went to the hospital. He stayed there for some time. He received radiation therapy, but that also did not work for him. And eventually, this patient passed away in 3 months. And later on, his wife told the doctor that actually his relatives had cancer, and he would often say that I will also die from cancer one day. So that was his belief. See, his belief was, I'm going to die from cancer one day. And that manifested. That he created his own reality by believing that I'm going to die from cancer. Right? So his attitude, his response, his belief, all these three mattered. On the other hand, the second patient, he also had the same diagnosis. When he was told that you had cancer and you're not, and the prognosis is not good, he took it in such a way that let me enjoy life. His job was such that he had to travel a lot. So he actually rescheduled his entire day, and he would go outside, he would enjoy his garden, and this is how he would spend his time. And also he started doing imagery exercises that Dr. Carl Swenton, he taught him. And he was able to respond to his treatment in a positive way. So he actually survived for more than 2 years. After 2 years, actually, he stopped practicing imagery exercises. So that's why he died. So see how our attitude, our beliefs, and our response, our attitude shapes our destiny. So there are certain factors that are important to, these are important because they affect the outcome of our visualization. So what are those factors? Like I said, belief. So there are certain beliefs. For example, in cancer survivors, it's important to know how the person is seeing his disease, his or her disease as. Then beliefs about the treatment, whether the patient believes this treatment is going to help, or patient does not have any belief, is doubting. Beliefs about body's own defense mechanism and also the healing process. It's very important to have hope. Hope is the belief that they can get well, not that they will get well, but that they can get well. So this is the belief. Hope is very important. And then It's also important to nurture hopefulness, to live with hopefulness, and even to die with hopefulness. And death and dying part will be covered by Dr. Shwetank in the evening. So there are certain criteria that are important for making this visualization very effective. It's important to remind the self that cancer cells are weak and very confused. So this is actually particularly for cancer cells, but you can use this for any disease that you are suffering from, any chronic illness, whatever. So you see those cells that are causing that particular illness as if those cells are very weak and confused. Usually when people get cancer, they feel helpless because they start to believe that this cancer is going to kill me. That means they start thinking, they start seeing the cancer cells as powerful. So it's important to visualize the cancer cells to be weak and confused. And also that treatment that I am receiving is very strong and powerful. At the same time, the healthy cells, I have healthy cells, and these cells have no difficulty in repairing any slight damage that the treatment might do. And that I have enough stock of good cells, the cells that can protect me. The army of WBCs is vast and they can easily overwhelm the cancer cells. And that the quality of WBCs, my army, my inner army is very strong. It's aggressive, eager for battle, and it's quick to seek out the cancer cells and destroy them. So I have a very powerful inner army. And the dead cells, and you have to visualize that the dead cells are being flushed from the body normally and naturally. It's natural for these cells to go out. They don't belong to my body. And then by the end of the imagery, you have to see yourself very healthy and free from that disease. And you see yourself reaching your goals. When your body is healthy, you're able to accomplish everything that you wanted in your life. Your life purpose, you see your life purpose getting fulfilled. And this, I don't have to go through this because you already know by now that visualizations is so important to boost our immune system. And when you visualize, you're able to access the power of your subconscious mind, and you are able to achieve your emotional competency. And visualization also helps to change your attitude and alter beliefs. And you get more and more confident and become optimistic as you continue to do your visualization. Sometimes people say that, I have difficulty in visualization. It's hard for me. I am not a visual person. So one important understanding about visualization is that it's not necessary that you use only your eyes. You only use one sense organ, but visualization, usually it involves all your other senses. If you're not able to see, you can hear, you can feel. So other sensations you can use to experience the same effects.
In fact, the more you use different senses,
that
the
I will
better
come
it
to.
is. Okay.
That I will come to when I talk about the technique of visualization. So it's best to use all your senses, but in particular, if you have difficulty in visualization, then there is a solution to that also. You can also use your other senses. And sometimes if you are distracted, then you don't have to stress about it, that I'm not able to focus. You can stop and then again you can refocus. Another understanding is that sometimes people say that people think that visualization is magical, but and that it is deceiving. It is like faking, but it is not like that. It's not a method of self-deception, but it is a method to direct yourself in the right direction. And then it's important to learn the technique of creative visualization, because if you don't use the right technique, proper technique, then you will not get the right results. Sometimes people don't use this technique properly, and then they get disappointed that it is not working for me. If you use it rightly, you will get good results. So what are the techniques that you can use to make your visualization very effective? One is that you have to make it very vivid. Like Shwetank was mentioning, that you have to use all your physical senses to bring about, to feel as if it's happening right here, right now. You are healthy now. You really feel how good it feels to be healthy. You see yourself doing everything, whatever you used to do before you became sick. You see yourself smelling fragrance of flowers in a garden, moving around. You are not in a wheelchair or anything like that, but you are enjoying your life. You feel the sensations in your hand. Maybe you see yourself in a beach holding sand in your hands and feel it, how beautiful it is to have that experience. So whatever you want in your life, here we are talking mainly about health, but you can use visualization in other areas of your life as well. But mainly because we are talking about healing here, you see yourself in a healthy state using all your physical senses. And it has to be very precise. What you want, what exactly you want, it has to be very precise. That means you should be able to really know what is the right way, what is the right feeling that I want to experience at this moment. It has to be, the more detailed the visualization is, the more effective it becomes. You have to be very clear. Your vision has to be very clear that this is the end result. But at the same time, you keep the vision. This is the vision I want to reach here. But it's important to know the process. What steps do I need to take to reach there? So one is to know the process. And second is to really see yourself doing that. For example, if you can take a simple example of somebody trying to lose weight. So you decide that, yes, of course, I have a plan. I want to go to gym 3 times a day or 5 times, 3 times a week or 5 times a week. So you have a plan. But in visualization, you see yourself every morning getting up, going to the gym, you're wearing your gym clothes, and then you are driving to the gym. So you have to see all these. And then when you reach there, you are using all the machines, whatever machines you want to use. You see yourself using that. You involve all your senses. You feel, you see others also doing the same, the kind of exercise that you are doing. So you are not alone, but you're together with so many. You're not getting bored. You are maybe using your earphones to listen to your favorite music, whatever. So these are just examples. So you see yourself doing that every single day. So that is the process. And then you have to evoke the feelings at the same time. Evoking the feelings means you are evoking that determination, the feeling of determination, the feeling of courage, that yes, I want to do this. And I see myself being very courageous, very determined. And I am seeing myself doing it every single day. Not a single day I am missing. So evoke those feelings. So if you use all these steps, all these methods, bring all of these together, then you will see the outcome of your visualization will be very powerful, will be very
to
effective.
work. Then it has to work. Many times people
Yeah.
still, thank you very much, Kanishka, for, making this so clear for all of us. But, many times people continue to feel that, visualization doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's because we're not using the right process, the right method. And so the right method includes all of these things, as vivid as you can, make it to be as precise, the end result. What do you exactly want to see yourself as? That's why we ask the question, what does healing mean for you, right? Or mean to you? And so I
Yeah.
want to see myself losing 30 pounds or 20 pounds, make it as precise. By what time? Or I want to heal myself from my illness in 2 months completely. I want to see myself walking. I want to see myself hiking, for example, right?
Yeah, somebody
Like
mentioned that they want to go for a marathon,
yeah.
right?
Ashok ji also said that he would like to go up to the to mountains and hike and so on and
Yeah,
so forth. So see yourself hiking, but then what do you need to do to get to that? See yourself doing that as well. I love that part.
yeah,
Yeah, visualize yourself doing that process too. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. And there are certain examples of healing visualizations that you can use during your visualization exercise. So you can see yourself in a safe place, because it's important, very important for you to be safe, feel safe and relax. Like I mentioned before, you can see yourself close to ocean or in a garden and see yourself, getting healed in that way. Or maybe you can use the visualization exercise where you feel that you are meeting with your inner healer, and healing is taking place spontaneously, in your body. That healer is helping you heal. So there are many different exercises that you can do. We don't have that much time right now, but these are just examples. Another beautiful visualization that you can use is having a dialogue with the disease, thanking the disease. It's important to thank the disease. Sometimes, we start to blame, why you have come to me. But first and foremost, it's important to thank the disease, because if the disease did not have not come to you, you would not have taken any steps. So thank and then have a dialogue. I know you have come to me to tell me that I need to change something, some important change is needed. Thank you. I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to make that change, and then change it. And then again talk to the disease that I have made the changes. Thank you for coming. And now please, I request you to go, go away. So this type of dialogue is really, it works very well, especially with patients, patients with pain. Have a dialogue with your pain. Many people, they have this, almost everyone in today's world have some or the other kind of pain, back pain, knee pain, headache, and all those things. So if you have a dialogue with your pain, this visualization exercise really works very well. And then, yeah, so you can use this visualization, endorphin drip visualization, when you see yourself really generating the endorphins inside. I think Shwetank was mentioning before that you don't
These,
have to depend upon external morphine
yeah,
to suppress your pain, but you can generate your inner morphine. Endorphin is inner morphine that you can generate by yourself, by through your thoughts, the power of your thoughts. So you can do that visualization exercise as well. So now this is a homework, just a little exercise that you can do till we meet in the evening. If you have a disease and you are taking a particular treatment, you can do this exercise And if you're not taking a treatment, any treatment, then also you can do this. So you can divide a sheet of paper into 4 parts, and you can draw 4 images. The first image, you can draw whatever way you are seeing your disease to be.
Or your problem. If it's
Your
not a
disease,
disease.
yeah, you can draw your problem as well, if not disease. And the second part, you can draw how you perceive your immune system to be, how your immune system is actually, functioning when the disease has attacked you. So draw a picture of your immune system. And thirdly, you draw how you perceive, how your treatment is, how your treatment is coming along. And then fourthly, you see your healed self, you draw that image. So this is a good exercise that will also help you with visualization. Last year we did this with many cancer survivors who had attended, and they all came up with so many beautiful images. So you also can try this out till we meet in the evening. And if you want, you can even share your images with others.
So, Kanisha, we have multiple comments, nice ones. Let me
Okay.
read some of these so that I
Sure.
don't miss them. So this looks like this is amazing, and it was discovered in 1970s. Why are people not treated with it to help with traditional treatment or even replace it? Yeah, like I mentioned there, that this is not going to generate the salaries, the fat salaries for the CEOs of hospitals. Yeah, so they don't want us to learn this and teach this and to master this. Yeah, and then it
Yeah,
says
so they use it as an adjunctive measure along with traditional medical treatment, whatever people are receiving. They are using visualization now actually in integrated oncology. They are using visualization quite a bit.
yeah, yeah. So it is good, to integrate it, but
Yeah.
eventually we can take ourselves to that level of consciousness where we don't really need conventional medicine. We can truly heal ourselves just on the basis of our change of beliefs, belief systems, and visualization, etc. Yeah, so then it's like rewiring our brains, even for PTSD, especially for military personnel. Yes, thanks. Yeah, and this is all good. Really good session. And there was one question: how about impressions, sanskaras from previous life journeys? How does it interplay with the current fears of this life? Yeah, you want to take that question? You have an
Yeah,
appetite
so
for that?
yeah, because see, we will talk more about the soul part, because till now we talked about just the mind part, but not too much about soul part. So tomorrow we will do, you will take the session on the soul and the supreme soul when we talk more about maybe the sanskaras. But you can say that sanskara is like soul is actually the energy. Soul is the energy, and this energy travels. It's not restricted to just one body, but soul carries the sanskaras. So previous birth, whatever the soul has done, the same sanskaras the soul is going to carry in the next birth. So definitely in that record, whatever the soul has carried, that those things are getting, they are definitely going to impact the person's present, the current life as well.
So it's like
We
the
don't,
information that travels from one hippocampus to the next. Yeah, and and that's how it modifies the amygdala. But
yeah,
then that's where we have to kind of work on the conscious part of the mind, right? That is the cortex and the prefrontal cortex, that we can change the information that we are giving to the
yeah.
amygdala.
So we
Mm,
talked about the information, right? So one is external information, another is internal information from the inside world. So that inside world is the energy, is the soul, and that soul is eternal. It never dies. So it stores all the information from the previous birth. And that is where, amygdala is actually taking the information from that place as well. So we will talk more
yeah,
about that
but
tomorrow.
yeah, I agree. But Kanisha, what I was hoping that we leave with them with the fact that irrespective of whatever information we have stored so far, it's okay. We can change that. Yeah, whatever database that we gave to the guard, to the watchman so far, it's okay. We can change that now.
Yeah, because that was not serving us in any way.
Yes, because that was allowing the negative people to come, the bad people to come in, and the good people to stay out. So now we have to give the right database for the watchman to look at and train him in the right way. And we can do that. So it is possible that the database that we had given, the wrong one, was for a very long period of time. So we might need to work harder with the watchman. We might have to be more careful and watch over the watchman for a longer period of time. But
Yeah,
that's where the power of visualization comes.
Right.
Rather than physically watching over, we can watch over in our minds. Yeah, and give the right database, train the amygdala in a very simple way, easy way, quick way, by the power of visualization. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the message. And anything else? I see a lot of wonderful responses. We love all of you. We appreciate your presence with us. This journey is not possible alone, and you've been a great audience. We have enjoyed these presentations, not because we've presented, but because of you all, the way you have received it. So thank you very much. And I know there'll be more questions. Kanisha, you can take us through a couple of minutes of meditation, but I was thinking that in the evening, we can do more question answers, and we have the session from 5 p.m. Correct? 5 to 6:30. We can even extend it a little bit if we have more questions, you know. It's going to be a very informative session in the evening, very experiential as well, and it's intriguing, to say the least, right? About death and dying.
Yeah. So, and we have already missed one session. So if we have time in the evening, we can do that. Otherwise, we can skip maybe.
But what you presented, this one is really good, Kanisha. Rather than that one, I think this one is very helpful. So shall we go through a few minutes of meditation?
Yeah. Why don't you guide us through now meditation exercise?
Okay. All right. So one of the important things for visualization is also relaxation. Yeah, for visualization to work, for the watchman to be retrained, the watchman has to be relaxed. So let's relax ourselves first. And really the relaxation has to happen at the level of the mind. Yeah. But first you have to relax the body, because unless the body is relaxed, the mind cannot be relaxed. So take a few deep breaths and relax your body from head to toe. See if there's any tension in the body, and if there is, let it go. Now quickly bring your attention to your mind. And if there is any tension in your mind, let that go as well. Free yourself. Now allow yourself to enter into a totally new dimension of consciousness, the quantum world, the quantum field. It's as if you're transcending the negative, the worldly, the mundane consciousness, and entering into the space where there is really no time, no distance, no movement, no change, where there is infinite information, but all positive, where there is infinite potential, infinite capacity, unlimited energy where you're connected to everything and everyone around you. You're connected to the whole universe, where you're connected to the highest healing force of the universe. In this space, you can be anything you want to be. You have the choice. In this space, you're merely a wave of energy. What you choose to be becomes your destiny. That's exactly what and who you manifest to be. You can choose to be totally healed. You can choose to be totally unhealed. Or you could choose to be any combination of the above two. The choice is yours. I invite you for a little bit to see yourself as totally healed. Make that choice for yourself right now and see this total healing manifesting for you. What you choose to be becomes your reality. But your choices are based on your beliefs. And your beliefs are based on your memories. And your memories are being fed by a conscious mind. So let only the most positive, the most meaningful, the most productive things, the most valuable information go from your conscious mind to your memories, creating the most powerful, most healing beliefs. And you find yourself healing in real time. This is quantum healing. And truly, just a fancy term for making your thoughts and your beliefs so powerful that you can use them to heal yourself. That's it. Nothing big, yet profound. Om Shanti.